This is how we took Yanman from having less than 1% open rates and getting no sales to getting over 50% open rates and thousands of rupees in sales in 60 days. My name is Alexander Jimenez. I'm the CEO of IX Media. We made $250,000 in email and SMS marketing for our e-commerce clients. Let's get to the video. Okay, so to give you the lay of the land, when we started working with Yanman, they quite literally never did email marketing. Like, they didn't even have a Klaviyo account. So the first thing we had to do, which played into mastering their deliverability and getting them over 50% open rates, was properly setting up their Klaviyo account. More specifically, their DNS records. Now, for those of you who don't know what DNS records are, think of them like inbox gatekeepers. They protect users and people that sign up to email marketing by only letting in trusted senders. In other words, brands that they could trust to send email marketing. So setting up DNS records, what does it actually look like? Well, don't get overwhelmed, it's pretty easy. The first thing you gotta do is sign into Klaviyo. Then go to your dashboard, and at the very top, you're gonna notice a little yellow banner that says something along the lines of, soon inbox providers may block your emails, get your account ready to avoid any sending interruptions. It may not be exactly that, since Klaviyo commonly changes things like that, but it should be something along the lines of, get your Klaviyo account set up. So once you're at that point, you're gonna follow the steps Klaviyo gives you. Now again, one of the things you're gonna have to do is set up your DNS records, which by the way is really easy, just follow the steps Klaviyo gives you. And it may also ask you to connect your brand's Shopify account to Klaviyo if you haven't done so already. It'll ask you to set up a custom sending address, which is pretty much the address that people are gonna see when they get your emails, along with a few other things, which by the way, I'll link all the videos on how to do it down in the description. Now, once you go through all the steps Klaviyo gives you, you're done with the technical aspect of your deliverability. You're set up the right way and you're ready to do the strategy I'm about to see in this video. Now, before I get into it, a quick warning is that you have to set up these things Klaviyo tells you, or else everything I'm going to say as far as the strategy goes and everything I'm about to tell you to implement is going to be worthless if you don't get these things set up, so do it. But let's assume that it is. Here's a strategy. To sum it up into 3 action steps, it's 1, start sending emails to hyper-engaged lists. 2, send 3 to 4 emails a week, yes, that many. And 3, determine the amount of people you'll send your emails to based on your previous campaign's performance. So here's how it actually looked like for Yanman. First, we started sending emails to hyper-engaged lists. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, start sending your emails to people that are hyper-engaged with your list, more specifically, people that have just engaged with your brand. Here's an example. The first email we ever sent out for Yanman was only sent to people who placed an order in the last 30 days. The reasoning behind this is because we know if someone just placed an order in the last 30 days, they're way more likely to go ahead and check and look for Yanman's emails than somebody that didn't place an order. The reasoning behind this is we know that if someone just placed an order in the last 30 days, they're way more likely to check their emails and specifically look for emails that are coming from Yanman. Think about it. If I just place an order with Yanman, I want to make sure that the company I bought from is a legit brand, and I want to feel good about what I bought. In other words, not regret buying the product. And where do I usually get all that information? From their emails. That's the reason why in the beginning, we first send emails out to people that have just placed an order in the last 7 to 30 days. But how does this improve deliverability? Well, you probably heard this before, but deliverability kind of works the same way a credit card would. When you first get a credit card, the bank doesn't give you a huge spending limit. Why? Because they don't know if they could trust you yet. So they give you a very small limit, maybe just enough to buy groceries. But if you use the card the right way, you pay on time, and you don't go over your spending limit, the bank sees you as responsible. And as a result, they slowly start to raise your limit. Email deliverability works in the same way. When you first start sending emails out, Gmail, Yahoo, and other inbox providers don't trust you yet because you're a new brand. Why? Because you just started sending emails. But if the majority of the people that you send emails to open your emails, click on your emails, and don't mark you as spam, Gmail and those other inbox providers start to say, okay, this sender is safe. All right, so what happens? Your emails start landing in better spots, they start going to the inbox, and they stop landing in the promotional or junk spam folder. So that's the premise of deliverability. Now that you understand that, what are some other ways you can improve it and get over 50% open rate? Well, the second thing I mentioned was sending 3 to 4 emails a week. Now for Yanman, we were pretty much sending emails like every single day. I mean, you could take a look at the screenshots, but we were sending a lot of emails out. And I know this could be a little controversial since a lot of brands think that sending multiple times a week could ignore their customers. I'll put it to you this way. First off, the only reason people think that is because they tried sending multiple emails themselves and they use the basic email template Klaviyo gives them, which is really, really crappy, or the emails themselves were not value. Now, what does value actually mean? Well, at IX, we defined it in 3 distinct parts. 1, actionable steps that people could do. 2, information that adds something to people's lives and rather than takes away. And 3, beautifully written and designed email. That is real value. Not sending 5 emails a week saying that, your bestseller is 20% off. that just comes off as neat. But anyways, back to deliverability. Why does sending 3 to 4 times a week improve your deliverability? Well, I'll put it to this way. When you start sending emails more often, the more chances you give people to open your emails, click on your emails, and now mark you as spam, the faster your deliverability is going to go up because you give more chances for the inbox providers to trust you. In other words, you're getting a lot more repetitions. You're getting a lot more reps. And again, in the beginning, you're only sending emails out to people that have just engaged with your brand in the last 7 to 30 days. In our case, people that have just bought. So you have the luxury and the advantage to send this many emails out without pissing people off. Now, I'll quickly mention this. Once you start getting to like 40% of your total list, like you're sending emails to 40% of your list, at that point, it doesn't really matter how good your emails are. Like, people are going to get annoyed if you just send emails every single day. But again, that's because these people are just not as engaged with your brand. So to keep that in mind, once you get about 40% range, you can just tone down the emails to once every other day tops. Now, I'll quickly mention this. Once your deliverability starts getting better and you start sending emails to about 40% of your total list, at that point, it doesn't really matter how good your emails are. If you send emails every single day, you are going to annoy customers. So just keep that in mind once you start getting to that 40% of your total list already. Now, moving on to the last part of mastering your deliverability, which, by the way, this is the part that gets a lot of people confused or they just don't know about, is how much should I open my list up by every time I send an email? In other words, how many more people do you add to your list every time you send a new campaign? Well, I'll give you the really simple answer: by 2x. That's the increase we typically open our list by without seeing worse open rates, but either staying the same or getting better open rates and better deliverability. Now, obviously, this isn't going to work 100% of the times. There's going to be times where you start getting worse deliverability, your open rate starts to go down, and that happens for one reason or another. So here's a simple action step we did for Yanman to improve their deliverability if that ever did happen. And that is what we like to call a push and pull method. Here's how it works. Before you send your next email out, check your previous email, your previous campaign, and see how many people opened that email. Now, if more people open that email than the previous email you sent before that, then it's a good idea to push and add more people to your list. In other words, to send emails to more people. If less people open that email, then you want to pull back and tighten up your list. For example, one email we sent out for Yanman got about a 20% open rate, but the one before that got a 50% open rate. So we knew that, okay, less people open the email up, so that means we want to tighten up our list and pull back a little bit so we could start improving our deliverability again. And because we did that for the next email, that email got about a 40% open rate. So it went back up. And then we started to push again. In other words, we started to send emails to more people. This kind of acts like a safeguard for your email's deliverability. If you start sending emails out to a bunch of different people and your open rate starts to get a little worse and worse and worse, it acts for a safeguard and says, okay, instead of just sending more emails out, we're going to pull back a little bit, tighten up our list. And once we start getting better open rates and more people start opening our emails, then we could start generally opening up the list to more and more people. Now, here's one really important thing to remember. I want to reference back to when I said total number of people opening your emails, not the percentage of your open rate. The goal of every email to master your deliverability is to get more and more people to open your emails, not so much the percentage of your open rate. Let's just say that you send out an email and it gets a 40% open rate, which translates to about 2,000 people. And then the next email you send out doesn't get a 40% open rate, it gets a 20% open rate, so pretty much cut in half. But here's the main difference. It gets 5,000 people to open it. Why? Because in that email, you opened up your list to a lot more people. In this case, that's actually a good thing, and it's probably a good idea to keep pushing down on your emails, keep opening your list, rather than pulling back. And the reasoning behind that is because although you got a worse open rate percentage, the total amount of people that saw your email actually doubled, which means Gmail, Yahoo, and all the other inbox providers start trusting you more because more people are opening your emails, which probably means you're either in the inbox and not in the promotion or spam folder. So at first, focus on, did more people open my email than the last one? If yes, push. If not, pull. Now later, when you start sending emails to almost everyone in your list, about 80% or more, then open rates do start to matter, because if you only get a 20% open rate, which means it might be a good idea to pull back on your emails and start tightening it up. But in the beginning, don't worry about it. Start sending to more and more people. Focus on the total amount of people that are seeing and opening your emails. Now, I know I said there was only 3 tips, but here's one more thing that can really improve your deliverability. And that is getting your welcome flow, abandonment flows, and post-purchase flow active. I'll quickly explain why it works. Each of the flows I just mentioned, your welcome flow, abandonment flows, and your post-purchase flows, only get sent to people that are already actively engaging with your brand. Your welcome flow goes out to people that just sign up to your emails, so they're more likely than not going to want to find your email to get their discount. Your abandonment flows go to people that have just viewed a product or added something to their cart. So that means they're already showing a lot of interest in your brand. And finally, your post-purchase flow only goes to people that have just purchased something from your store. And kind of like I said in the beginning of the video, these people people that have just placed an order are more likely going to want to find your emails and open them because they want to start getting information about your brand, they want to get updates about their order, and they want to see more of your content. So all these people are subscribers that are super engaged with your brand, which means they're way more likely to go out and find your emails and open them. And like I said in the beginning, when more and more people start to open your emails, in the eyes of Yahoo, Gmail, and other inbox providers, they start seeing your brand as a trusted sender, which in turn improves your deliverability. Anyways, hope you enjoyed that video. Peace. By the way, if you wanted to maybe get some help with your emails on a 100% performance basis, feel free to click the first link in the description. Happy to see if my team could help. And yeah. What was blooper? Okay, okay. To improve there.